Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to cover a bit of a different video topic or type of video than we talked about really before. And I'm going to talk about conceal carry, so weapons, and kind of hit on some examples of what I use and the thought process behind them and why. So for people maybe live in different countries or certain localities or who haven't grown up around things, I guess to start is the thought process of why would we want to carry anything, and do I expect to get into knife fights or gun fights, or do we expect something to go wrong? And I would say the answer is definitively no. You hope and expect that over your lifetime you'll never ever use these tools. However, in my life experience, both in and out of the military, I've just learned that when you don't expect something to happen or you're not prepared for something is usually when it happens. So it's best to have some level of being prepared for what's out there. And that's why choose to conceal carry and have thought about these things. So we'll flip the camera around and we'll take a closer look at my thoughts on the subject. All right, so here we are. Sorry about the dirty blanket. I am utilizing my dog crate right now. She's over here hanging out. I'm in the middle of moving and I no longer have any furniture, so we're using the top of the dog crate. So as you can see here, I have 4 items laid out, going left to right, smaller to larger, and there's a reason I have all 4. So we'll start at the bottom. Here we have the Ruger LCP2 in a super cool desert earth and green color. And we got a KelTec PF9 right here, Walther PPS, and then my first one I ever had, the Gen 4 Glock 26. So why are there all these different options? Well, we'll start with my first, the Glock 26. As you can see here, it's a little bit thick and going to be bigger and heavier. So here you can see the magazine. It is a double or side by side, whereas the rest of these are all single width, single stack magazines. So that's the first thing to note. Now the first 3 here are all 9mm. So if we take a look at this, that is going to be at this size of round in comparison to the last, which is 380. So you can kind of see the size difference here if we line them up. So different cartridge, different size. So this was my first one, and I got that before I started having some lower back issues after my last deployment. Before I had a lot of experience. I'd spent a lot of time stationed overseas where you're not allowed to have weapons unless it's for you're being on duty. So that was my first. And I love the way it shoots. However, over time I found, especially in the Southwest, where it's 100 plus in the summer a lot of times, the clothing I'm wearing, I'm a very skinny individual, and the clothing I'm wearing is not conducive to this. And a lot of summer times for me as a really thin individual. Also, after my last deployment, I started having a few lower back issues. I found that sometimes this was just not comfortable and my lower back was kind of causing me problems. So what is my most carried item is actually this Walther PPS. It is almost exactly the same weight as this. However, it is quite a bit thinner and more ergonomic, so it sits against the body a lot better. As we look, this is kind of a fat, chunky grip and slide on top, and this is just much more thinner, tapered. So although it weighs about the same, it's much more comfortable to wear. And because it's still heavier, however, it still shoots really well. So that's the big reason that I fell on this one. In between those two, I had tried out the KelTec PF9, again, a 9mm, kind of like your last smallest standard power handgun cartridge. This is even lighter and thinner than the PPS. However, because of that, it is not fun to shoot. You have to have good fundamental shooting skills to shoot it well, and it's just not enjoyable. So I really only use this when either of these is too much for either my clothing or for because of the heat outside or for how my back is feeling, and usually this is no problem. So it's kind of rare that I really use this, and even rarer, I use this even more rarely now since getting this, because I find when my back is really bothering me, or when it's really hot and I'm really going with a minimal kind of clothing. And by minimal, I don't mean like not wearing any clothing, but more it's really hot, I'm really thin, and I don't have a good way to carry. That's when I go with this really small 380. And you can see again, like really small. However, although it's even smaller than this and lighter than this, it shoots better because it's the 380, and I find it easier to shoot. The trigger is better. I find it feels better in the hand. So although the size differences and weight differences, they're similar, with this one just being a bit smaller and lighter. This one actually shoots better because of the change in cartridge. So that's kind of the reason behind each of the four choices. Now, when it comes to ease of carrying, of course, that also goes into how do you carry. So we go back to the smallest, the LCP. I do have a holster for putting on the belt. However, because of how small this one is, I actually use the little pocket holster more often to just slide into a pocket. It's the only one I utilize that tactic. For the PF9, I just have a simple holster that slides on the belt as well. I have another one of those for the PPS, though I don't use it very often. For these last two bigger, heavier ones, I most often use these leather and Kydex mix for on the belt. I find they spread the weight out the best for long-term comfort. Because this has become more of a winter kind of thing, I actually often now use this little leather paddle holster that sits outside of your belt instead of inside of your belt, like when I'm going to be wearing like winter coats and stuff, because I find that to be actually very comfortable, which is a good way for me to use this. So why am I sharing this, and why do I think it's beneficial to you? Well, if you either carry or considering doing so, I think it's important to understand that as you do research and you go online and look at different items and possibilities to purchase, it's important to understand that everyone's situation is different, and to not just blindly trust whatever the crowd is saying. And that's because, a lot of times people might say, oh, this cartridge is no good, it's too small and not powerful enough. But I'm a believer in the idea that, whatever you have with you is better than what you don't have with you. If you need to write a note, any pen is better than not having a pen. It's the same way with this. If some bad person comes in and wants to steal stuff and kill people, it's better to have this than to have nothing to try to defend yourself. And I guess that brings up another concept of the idea that some of you may say, well, that's what the police are for. Yes, but no. No one is really there to help you in a bad situation except for yourself. And that's where people need to take responsibility for themselves and for the people around them. You need to safeguard your own life, your family's life, your loved ones, and the people in your community around you. The police, it takes them time to receive the call and get someone dispatched to a location. And by that time, who knows what will happen. Same with the fire department, if you have a fire. Same with medical, especially out here in New Mexico. I mean, if I'm hiking up in the mountains, I'm probably at least 4 or 5 hours from a rescue and a trauma center. You have to be able to take care of yourself. And this is just an extension of that thought process. So some people might say you should never have this. The round is just too small and not powerful enough to really defend you. I disagree. It's better than having nothing. And if I'm having major back problems and this is the only weapon I have, then it very well may be nothing if my back's bothering me, and therefore it's better to have something like this instead of nothing. And that's where both of these kind of sit in the same thing, in the realm in between the bigger, heavier, thicker option and the really, really small option. And that's why I say I carry actually this one the most, because it's the best balance of size, weight, capability, and comfort. And it's about understanding what's going to work for you. If you're a larger individual, there may be none of these options work well for you, and something else works better. Or if you're a man or woman who's less experienced in shooting, maybe you need to start with something else. Although I would argue this is a decent option for that. But it's about doing what's comfortable for you and what's going to work for you. And you need to have that mindset and understanding of the responsibility you're taking on, and you need to consider all of the options and really try to figure out what's the right option for you. There's not a one-size-fits-all answer here. So hopefully that was helpful, and hopefully that gives you guys something to think about. If you whether it's taking this thought process and applying it to your own firearm concealed carry options, or knives, or medical supplies, or whatever it happens to be, utilizing these thought processes to kind of be prepared for when you go out and about your business to deal with whatever your day is going to throw at you. And hopefully you never have to pull out that med kit and use a splint or use a tourniquet, and hopefully you never have to draw your weapon. But at least if you have thought through the process and know what works for you, you'll be prepared just in case you do. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. If you have any different thoughts or discussions, bring those up as well. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you guys want to see anything else related to it, or anything a little bit different, or this made you think of something you'd like me to cover, let me know in the comments, and I'll try to get that done.